Cam Newton, the first pick of the 2011 NFL Draft, the 2015 NFL MVP, and now, 5 years later, a free agent searching for a team to take a chance on him. This is the downfall of Cam Newton. Cameron Jerrell Newton was born May 11, 1989 in Savannah, Georgia. He attended Westlake High School, and in his junior season he threw for 2,500 yards and 23 touchdowns. He also ran for an extra 638 yards and 9 touchdowns. As a senior, Newton was ranked a 5-star prospect. He was ranked the second best dual-threat quarterback and the 14th best quarterback, and the 28th best player overall. He received scholarship offers from multiple colleges, including Georgia, Maryland, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and Virginia Tech, and the college he eventually chose, Florida. Newton started his career as a backup to future Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow. He threw 10 passes and completed 5, while also having 16 runs for 103 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was supposed to be the starter for his sophomore season, but in the opener against Hawaii, he injured his ankle and didn't play for the rest of the year. On November 21st, Newton was arrested for stealing another University of Florida student's computer. Newton was suspended from the team, and later in the year, he announced his intention to transfer from Florida. He ended up transferring to Blinn College in Brenham, Texas. In his first season there, he threw for 2,833 yards and 22 touchdowns, and rushed for 655 yards. Newton was named a JUCO All-American honorable mention and was the most recruited JUCO quarterback in the country. In his recruitment, he decided on Auburn over Mississippi State and Oklahoma. Newton started Auburn's first game of the 2010 season and won against Arkansas State. He had a total of 357 yards of offense and 5 total touchdowns. He was named SEC Offensive Player of the Week after that performance. 3 weeks later, in a game against South Carolina, Newton had 5 touchdowns and over 300 yards once again. On October 9th, Newton had 210 passing yards, 198 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. 2 weeks later, in a game against LSU, Newton had 217 rushing yards, and that got him over 1,000 rush yards on the season. And he also set the SEC record for most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single season. After the game, Newton was ranked as the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy that season. In a game against Georgia, Newton became the first SEC player to throw for 2,000 yards and run for 1,000 in a single season. In the Iron Bowl, Newton came back from down 24 points and took Auburn to the SEC championship game with an undefeated record. Newton and Auburn won the game, and after, Newton was named MVP, having thrown 6 total touchdowns. A bit after, Newton won the Heisman Trophy after throwing for 2,854 yards and 30 touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,473 yards and 20 touchdowns. A week later, Auburn beat Oregon in the national championship game. After that, Newton announced he was foregoing his senior season so he could go to the NFL Draft. He was taken with the first pick in the draft by the Carolina Panthers. Before the start of the season, Newton was named the team starter, and on his NFL debut, he threw for 422 yards, which was the record for most passing yards on an NFL debut. The next week, Newton did even better, throwing 432 yards. His 854 passing yards in his first 2 games was a record for rookies. Newton had good stats, but the team's record through 7 games was 2-5. In a win against the Colts, Newton passed 3,000 passing yards on the season, and in early December, he set the record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback with 13. On Christmas Eve, Newton set the record for most passing yards in a season by a rookie. He also became the first quarterback to throw over 4,000 yards in one season. He ended the season with 4,051 passing yards and 21 touchdowns. He also had 706 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. In games Newton turned the ball over, the team went 0-10, but in games he didn't turn the ball over, they went 6-0. Newton was selected to the Pro Bowl, and he was named Offensive Rookie of the Year. He received 47 out of 50 votes for Offensive Rookie of the Year and was chosen to the PFWA All-Rookie team. He was also ranked 40th on NFL's Top 100 Players list. In his second year, the Panthers improved, going 7-9, and Newton was ranked 46th on NFL's Top 100 list. In his third season, Newton and the Panthers went 12-4, finally making a playoff appearance. Newton threw 3,379 passing yards and 24 touchdowns and got voted into the Pro Bowl. Newton lost his first playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, but ended up being ranked number 24 on NFL's top 100 list. Newton missed 2 games in his 4th NFL season, but he still helped the Panthers win the division and make the playoffs. Newton and the Panthers beat the Cardinals on Wild Card Weekend, but lost again to the Seahawks a week later. Prior to the 2015 NFL season, Newton signed a 5-year, $103.8 million contract extension, and that turned out to be a good decision. Through the first 14 games of the year, the Panthers were undefeated. They ended the season 15-1, their only loss being against divisional rivals Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers beat the Seahawks 31-24 in the divisional round, and in the conference championship, they beat the Cardinals 49-15. Their 49 points was an NFC Championship game record, and the day before the Super Bowl, Newton was named NFL MVP. He had 3,837 passing yards and 35 passing touchdowns, adding 636 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. The Panthers lost the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos 24-10, with Newton turning the ball over 3 times. Newton was ranked the number 1 player on NFL's top 100 players list. In 2016, the Panthers went 6-10, finishing bottom in the NFC South. During the season, though, Newton set the record for the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in NFL history. Even though Newton threw 19 touchdowns to 16 interceptions, Newton was ranked 44th on the NFL's top 100 players list. In 2017, Newton had a game where he threw for 254 passing yards and ran for 95 yards. He also had 4 total touchdowns and was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. The Panthers won 11-5 and were the 5 seed in the NFC. In the wildcard game, they lost against the New Orleans Saints. Newton ended up being ranked 25th on the NFL's top 100 list. In 2018, the Panthers were 6-2 at the mid-season mark. They looked like they could be a playoff team again that season. Then they went on a 6-game losing streak, and after a loss to the Saints, Newton revealed that for weeks he had had a shoulder injury, and that was a big part of their losing streak. Newton sat out the last 2 games of the season so he could get better. After the season ended, Newton underwent right shoulder surgery. Newton returned from his injury in 2019, and in week 1 of the season, they lost to the Rams with Newton not throwing a single touchdown and having negative rushing yards. The following week, they lost again. Newton didn't throw any touchdowns and didn't have any rushing yards either. Newton missed lots of open receivers, and people began to doubt if he had ever fully healed from that injury. Turns out those people were right, as Newton was placed on injured reserve and didn't play another game for the rest of the season. At the end of the year, Newton was given permission to seek a trade. After not finding a partner, he was released. Now he's a free agent, hoping some NFL team will take a chance on him. There are some pros with signing Newton, like he's been an NFL MVP and he's made the playoffs 4 times. There are arguably more cons though, as he's 0-8 in his last 8 starts, and from what we've seen, he isn't what he was when he won MVP, and when he helped to lead his team to the playoffs. As for where he will end up, I'm not sure. In my free agent landing spots prediction video, I mentioned 4 teams. I talked about the Chargers, but now that they drafted Justin Herbert, I don't think that's very likely. I also talked about the Patriots, but so far the Patriots haven't shown any interest at all. I mentioned the Raiders, and I still think that's possible, but it doesn't make that much sense since they have Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr. I also mentioned the Redskins, which I think could make sense since Newton played with Ron Rivera in Carolina. I just think the Redskins will give Dwayne Haskins one more chance, and since they traded for Kyle Allen, I don't think it will happen. Some other team it could be that I didn't mention in the video could be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew might not be the best quarterback, and they might try and bring in Cam for a season. Other than those teams, I can't really think of anyone else he would sign with. I'm even questioning if he'll be on a roster before the start of next season. Anyway, to wrap this video up, Newton's had a good NFL career, but recent injuries have made him not be on an NFL team. And now he's just hoping some team will take a chance on him before it's too late.